Hey guys, welcome back to a new video in which we will keep working on our stream chat app. In this video we will set up the channel fragment. So that will be the fragment that displays the list of channels, the list of group chats we have. And before we get started, I would like you to log into your stream dashboard because we want to create some channels here that we are actually able to see some here in our app. We will actually implement the functionality to also create our own channels from within the app, but that will be done in the next video. So to be able to see something in this video, make sure to be logged in here. Then you will have that production app here that you used in the previous video with the API key. Click on that, and we want to go to chat here and explore. So that is very similar to, maybe you know that from Firebase, looks similar to the Firestore database. Here we just have our collections of documents. You can see there are a bunch of channel IDs, and down here we also have some named ones. That is now my app where I already have some channels, as you can see. For you, that will probably be empty here, and you want to click on create new channel. Then you can pick a channel name, for example, YouTube. You could also provide an image URL for the channel image. I will leave that blank here, and the channel type will be messaging. And you can also see that there are a bunch of different types of channels you can choose here with a stream. So it's not just a plain messaging or a plain chat SDK. You can also use it to make live streams and offer that for other people. Gaming channels, commerce channels, and team channels. It's really cool. I will pick messaging here, and for this app, better do that as well. Then we can click on create, and it will create the channel. I will leave this single channel now here that we manually create. Create as many as you like. You will then see them all in your app. Then we can actually go back to our Android Studio and open the project from the last video. I will close some of these windows here. So a little recap. In the last video we implemented this login fragment and the login view model. At least that was the main part. So we are actually able to connect users here to our chat. And once user is successfully connected, we emit this success state here to our login fragment that we then retrieve here. And right now we only show a toast that we successfully logged in. But now we of course want to navigate the user, in case of a successful login, to the channel fragment that we don't have yet. So let's quickly create that. In our UI package, right click new Kotlin class called channel fragment. And that will as well, just as our login fragment here, inherit from binding fragment, so we have direct access to our view binding instance. Binding fragment, and this will be fragment channel binding. This one. Call the constructor, and in here we can then override our binding inflator, which we can then set equal to fragment channel binding :inflate. And now we again have access to our view binding instance. We also don't want to forget to annotate this fragment with Android entry point, so that we're actually able to inject dependencies into this fragment. Just again, if you don't know that, I already talked about that in the previous video. If we want to inject dependencies into Android components using Daggerhill, a fragment is an Android component, then we need to annotate this with Android entry point. In here, we will then have our onViewCreated function, so where we want to initialize all of our views. And let's now think about what do we actually need to do in onViewCreated here. So when I open our fragment channel XML, you can see we have a channel list header view and a channel list view. The channel list header view will be this thing here. So on the one hand, we want to be able to log out when we click on this user bubble, and we want to be able to create chats when we click on this pen icon. That is what we will do in the next video, as I said. So we will leave this for now. We will implement the logout here, but most importantly, we of course want to display the list of channels here. So that is what should happen in this channel fragment. And we also need access to a view model that we will actually bind to this channel fragment, in which we will create channels and in which we will log out the user, and that will also just return the currently logged in user. So let's do that in, I created it directly in our UI package. Let's create a package for that called channel, and then simply drag this channel fragment into this package. Click refactor and right click new Kotlin class, and that will be our channel view model. We annotate this with hilt view model, so we can actually inject dependencies into this view model's constructor. And just as in the last video, this view model will just take an instance to our chat client, so private val client of type chat client, and that is of course a view model. Then let's create a function logout here, which is pretty self-explanatory, so that is super easy. We just call client.disconnect. And we also want the function to access the current user, so function get user, and that will return, I think it's a user here, yeah, a user from getStream chat blah blah blah, and this will return client.get current user. Let's make that nullable like this, and that is already it for now for our channel view model. We will later add the create channel function, but not now. We will go back to channel fragment and initialize the view model here. Private val view model, which is a channel view model, and here we'll say activity view models. You might now wonder why I do this, why I bind this view model to our activity and not to a fragment lifecycle. The reason is this. When we take a look here, and we want to create another channel, which we will, as I said, do in the next video. But that is a dialog fragment. And this dialog fragment will need access to our channel view model as well, because it needs to create a channel in the end. And this function to do that will be in our channel view model. The thing now with dialog fragments is whenever we click on cancel or create, rather on create here, then the dialog will be dismissed. And if the dialog is dismissed because it's a dialog fragment, and we would bind our channel view model to the dialog fragment, then the view model would also be destroyed. Or it could be that the view model is destroyed before our create channel function actually returns anything important. So it could just be that our network call gets cancelled because our dialog fragment gets destroyed, and the view model that is bound to the dialog fragment would also be destroyed with that. So that is why we bind the view model here to our activity. So when we click on create and the dialog is destroyed, the view model is actually not destroyed because it's bound to the activity. That is the reason. And then we can also just use it here in our channel fragment. So here on view curated, we now successfully logged in if this fragment launches. What we want to do is we want to retrieve the current user and just check if it's not equal to null. So if we are actually really logged in. So val user is equal to view model get user, and if that user is equal to null, we simply want to rather pop the backstack and return out of here. And now the way these stream UI components and stream views work is they all, or most of those, have their own kind of view model. And with that view model, stream just makes sure, of course, that they also survive configuration changes and that they just decouple the UI logic from the business logic. So that's really cool. What we need to do is, for our channel list, we need to create a channel list view model factory, because the channel list view model that the Stream SDK gives us needs that factory, and the factory needs to know some filters. So it needs to know which chats do we actually want to show. So that is in the end nothing else than just a database query. Let's just see how that works. It's really not difficult to understand. We have our factory here, which is our channel list view model factory. And you can see that now takes a filter. So we can set the filter equal to filters.end. So we can say two filters or multiple filters together need to be true, each of those, a simple AND query. And then we can say filters dot equal, so now we can compare a field with a value. We want to compare the type, and we want to make sure that the type is equal to messaging. So with that, we just make sure that we only get the messaging channels. You've seen that in our dashboard. There could also be live stream channels, for example, gaming channels. We only want the messaging channels here. I will leave this as it is now. I know I used an AND query here, so we could chain multiple filters here, just to show you how it would work if you only want specific chats. So for example, if you logged in with a real user, then you of course only want to display the chats for that specific user. Then you could do something like, filters dot equal members, and then you can say the list of some user IDs. So you can say that it should only display the chats that are messaging chats and that include members that are contained in this list here, just member IDs. So that is how you could just display a list of chats for a specific user, but because we only have group chats here for everyone, we display them all. Then we can also say we want to sort that, which is query sort dot ascending here, so we could just sort it using a field name, but I will just use the default sort, which is channel list view model, this one here, dot default sort. So it will, I think, sort them just by the most recent message, and we can limit these to, let's say, 30. So we load 30 channels at once. And then now that we have that factory, we can create the actual view model with that. So our channel view model, that is of type channel, view model by view models. And here in these curly brackets, we can then actually pass our factory if we want to pass a custom factory, which we do want here. We not only want to create our channel view model, we also want to create our view model for the channel header view. And by the way, I just see that this is not our channel view model, which is our custom view model. That should be the channel list view model. This one here, as we also used here and here. But we also want to have that channel header view model, which is the view model for our header bar, this bar here. That doesn't need a factory, so we can just say channel header view model. By the way, this is channel list view model, and the channel header view model will be of type channel header, channel list header view model actually. Oh man, channel list header view model, like this, and that is also by view models, like this. Now it looks good. And now that we have these two view models, we also need to bind these to our views, which is very easy. So just to our actual views here, channel list view and channel header list view, we just say channel list view model bind view. You can see that takes a view now. We want to bind our channel lists view here actually, and the lifecycle owner will be our view lifecycle owner. And the same with our channel list header view model, that bind view, this time binding that channel list header view, and again view lifecycle owner. And then what we want to do is we want to say binding channel list header view set on user avatar click listener. So once we click on that user avatar, we want to log out. We can make that a Lambda function, and in here we can simply say view model that logout, and then we pop the backstack like this. It's really that simple. And before we want to try that out now, we want to go to our main nav graph and actually add that as a destination, our channel fragment. Click here on this plus icon and click channel fragment. And then we simply drag this bubble here to our channel fragment to create a destination. We don't need to add any arguments or so, we can just leave it as it is, and then hop into our login fragment, because here, when we successfully logged in, we want to essentially just navigate. So find nav controller dot navigate, and we say r.id action login fragment to channel fragment. So we just perform that navigation. Let's launch the app and try that out. And by the way, there is one more thing I will do in this video, which also involves navigation, but right now we should be able to try this out, and I will show you what I will fix here. It's actually a bug. So here we are. Let's write a username that is valid. Click confirm. And yeah, we are actually logged in. And here are channels, and you can also see our YouTube channel is here. The channel I created before in my dashboard. For you, it should actually only display the channels that you created there, because I used the same API key for this app. Then as for the other, I will also see all the other channels here. But the issue that I mentioned here is related to navigation component. If we log out, so we click on our user bubble, you can see that works without any problems. If we now log back in, you can see the app simply crashes. And if we take a look here in logcat and actually see what the crash is, so here is the error. It says navigation action destination blah 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 cannot be found from the current destination. So for some reason, navigation component actually doesn't really check what the current destination is and how to navigate to another fragment from there. I don't really know the exact issue here, but I know how to fix this issue luckily. And for that I will simply create an extension function for a nav controller that is called navigate safely in our util package. You know, I use that in every of my projects because that is a bug that appears in every project if you don't do it like I do now. Let's call it nav controller extension. Select file and write a function that extends nav controller called navigate safely. And with that function it won't crash, it will normally navigate. We have our ID resource for the action, which is an integer. We have our arguments that we can pass in form of a bundle, that's null by default. We have nav options we can pass, also null. And we have nav extras. Navigator.extras, I think, yes. That's also null. So we actually only need to pass an action here and the rest is optional. And in here, we first want to get a reference to the actual action, because right now we only have the ID here. We want to get the actual action by using current destination, so wherever we currently are, .getAction, and we pass our action here. That can return null. If it is null, we want to use our nav graph to find the action. So nav graph get action, and just pass our action here. And that can still return null here. So we will actually check that here. If the action is not equal to null, and the current destination.id is not the same as the ID of our destination. So we basically just check, okay, do we navigate to a fragment that is not the current fragment? So the issue is in the end, if we navigate back from our channel fragment, the navigation component for some reason doesn't really register that. I think it could register that if we override navigate up or so. I'm not really sure about that right now. But if we don't do this, it seems like it doesn't register that we actually navigated back, so it still thinks we are inside of the channel fragment, but we are actually already in the login fragment. And if we then try to navigate from the login fragment to the channel fragment, but navigation component still thinks we're in the channel fragment, it essentially ends up thinking that we navigate to the same fragment, from channel fragment to channel fragment, and then it can find this ID. So that is why we have this check in the end. So if this condition is fulfilled, we simply want to call navigate with our resource ID, or how did I call it, just action, our arguments, our nav options, and nav extras. And it still gives us an error. Oh, because I called this action the same as this. Let's call this just ras_id. So Shift F6, call it ras_id. And then we can pass this here. And the error is gone, yes. Now that should work if we use this function. So in our login fragment here, we just replace this with a navigate safely. And I'm not sure if we also have navigate somewhere else. No, we don't. Because that is the only way how we can navigate, and the rest is just popping the backstack. That is fine. If we now relaunch this, that should work. I always have this system UI isn't responding on my emulator. That is quite annoying. I don't know why. If I cold boot that again, then it works, but yeah, doesn't matter here. So let's try that again. We log in here, confirm, loading the chats, and if we now log out by clicking on our user bubble, logging in again, then you can see now that works like a charm. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and in the next and the last video of this playlist we will then implement the functionality to be able to create chats here when we click on this icon, and of course to be able to click on these chats and open the actual channel with all the messages and stuff like that. So if you like this video, give it a like and let me know that in a comment. That would be cool, and I hope I see you back in the next video again. Have a nice day, see you in the next video, bye bye.